Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools for creating beautiful home decor on a budget. Welcome back to video number 3 of my Christmas in July series for 2022. I'm so excited to share these 6 easy to make Christmas DIYs that you can make using supplies that are available year-round. So with all that being said, let's get crafting. And our first DIY for today is going to be a cute little Christmas window using 4 of these frames with the brackets, some mini greenery wreaths, some crimson chalk paint, and some ribbon. So the first thing I needed to do was use my little mini screwdriver set from Dollar Tree to remove the screws and brackets from the front of all 4 of these frames. Now, if you're not going to paint your frames, you don't need to do this, but I did want to paint my frames, so I removed the brackets and then we'll put them back on later. Then we're going to take the stickers off the back. For some reason, these frames have super sticky stickers. I want to remove the little paper and the backing and the glass for now while we paint our frames. And I'm choosing to make mine a little Christmas window using my Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson. I'm going to paint the front of each frame and also the inside. I'm going to wait to paint the outside edges until I get my frames glued together. And then once our window is made, we will glue or paint the outside edges. Once my initial coat of paint here on the front was dry, I did take my little sander and just distress the edges a little bit with the sander so that you could see the wood and just making it look a little older. So do that to all 4 of your frames, and then we're going to turn them over face down. And I do have them so that the brackets, 2 of the brackets will be at the top of the window and 2 of the brackets will be at the bottom. You'll see what I mean here in a second. But we're gluing 2 frames together and 2 frames together. And then once those are dry, using our wood glue, we'll glue the long edge here and glue our 2 sets of 2 together to make our little window. Once the wood glue was dry, I did reinforce those seams on the back with a bead of my hot glue and then just let that dry completely before moving our window or flipping it over. And this made it nice and extra strong. Now that the window's put together, like I said, we can come back and we can paint all of our outside edges with our crimson chalk paint. Then once that is dry, now I'm returning the brackets to the frames using the little screws. And here you can see I'm just putting 2 brackets at the top of the window and then the other 2 will be at the bottom. So those top 2 frames are actually glued upside down. I just thought this gave a more uniform appearance to the window. Now I'm going to for sure put the glass back into my window. So you have that option if you just want to leave it open, like nothing in the frames, or you can just glue the glass back in like I'm going to do with my hot glue here. You could leave your window like that so that wherever you hang this, just your wall would show through to the back. Or you can do what you're going to see me do in a second. And I'm going to take some white and black scrapbook paper and attach that to each of the 4 frame backs. We're going to do that after we get our wreath all put together. Now this is a set of 3 mini wreaths. They were from the Target Dollar Spot. Instead of using just one, I wanted it to be more full. So I'm actually just going to stack these 3 mini wreaths together so I like how they look. And then cutting a piece of that red and black checked ribbon from Dollar Tree, we're going to hang those on our window. So here, once we have the ribbon the length we want, we're just going to attach it on the back of the window here with some hot glue, and then you can trim any excess that you want. So here's the window with just the glass in it. And now, like I said, I'm going to cut some pieces of this white and black buffalo check scrapbook paper, but you could use whatever you'd like, and attach that to the back of each frame. And this is what it looks like with the backs in there as well. You could also put 2 pictures in the bottom frames if you'd like. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. And if you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support of my channel. Our second DIY today is super rustic looking and very easy to make using a package of wood shims from Lowe's or Home Depot and some tumbling tower blocks, some paint, stain if you want, and a star. So these packages are pretty inexpensive. I got them a while ago. I can't remember how much they are, but they come with 12 pieces, and basically they get smaller towards one end. So if you stack them all with the skinny ends at the top, they will form the shape of a Christmas tree. So that's what we're going to do. Just get them all lined up and as flat as possible on the bottom. And we're just going to use wood glue. We're going to glue these 2 packs together. So what I did here on the left side is I flipped the left one down, put some wood glue on it, and then kind of squished it into the tree. Then I'm going to go do the one on the outside on the right. And here I'm using the little level ruler to make everything as flat as possible on the bottom there. So that's all I did, is I just kept going back and forth. Now I'm going to flip 2 down on the left and just keep doing that until I get to the center. And then this wood glue does set up pretty fast. I just kept wiping away any excess that was seeping out. And then I also did the same thing to my second package of shims. Now to make the trunks of my trees, I'm going to glue some tumbling tower blocks together. So for this smaller one, I'm going to use 8 blocks. Here I'm going to put 3 together, and then I'm going to put another 3 together and put those on top of that so that my trunk is 2 blocks thick. Then I'm going to, so there's the 6, then I'm going to take 2 more and glue them together like a sandwich cookie and lay those at the top of my set of 6. You'll see what I mean here. So this is just to give a little tiny bit more height than just the 3 standing tall there. So that's going to be one trunk. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the second trunk, except I'm going to add another set of 6. So there's the 6 at the bottom, there's the 2 going across, and then I'm going to have another set of 6 up here at the top, and this will just give our second tree a different height. Now once my shims were all dry and glued together, I'm doing a really like messy, kind of not worrying about full coverage job of painting some white Waverly chalk paint on these. Once those are dry, I'm also going to sand them a little bit to distress them and make them look rustic. Now, of course, you could paint these whatever color you wanted. I just chose to go with white today. For my trunks, once those are dry, I'm using my Truffle Waverly chalk paint, and we'll paint them on every surface except for the top piece that will be glued to the trees. So to glue the trunks, I did just put a bunch of hot glue there on the top of the trunk and then tried to balance it as well as I could. These probably would have stood okay just like this, but I decided to add 2 tumbling tower blocks to the front of each trunk and 2 to the back. You'll see here what I'm doing in a second. Here I'm adding a set of 2 blocks, gluing those to the front. This just gives our tree a little more stability and will help it not fall over. And I think it still looks super cute and super rustic. There are so many ways you could dress up these trees. You can put a star or leave it plain. You could wrap some beaded garland. You could wrap pom-pom garland around. You could wrap a baker's twine. So many cute things. You could put little pom-poms on, like Christmas ornaments. Let your imagination help you decorate these however fits your style, but I love how these turned out super plain with the red glittery star from 4th of July. For DIY number 3, I'm going to show you how you can make a easy neutral book stack using 3 paperbacks from Dollar Tree, some of this craft paper on a roll, and some sticker letters and jute twine. Now the cool thing about this is you could change these books out because we're only going to glue the paper to itself. We're not going to glue anything to the actual books. We're not going to paint the books. So what I chose to do is crinkle up a little of that craft paper and then flatten it out just to make it look a little more interesting, give it some texture. And then measuring your books, the ones that I chose to use were about 6 5/8 inches tall. And then to wrap all the way around, I needed about 11 inches. So I'm just cutting that with my Fiskars paper cutter here, getting my paper measured up, and then I'm laying it on the front of the book, creasing it with my fingers to get it to wrap correctly on the binding, and then also a little flap that will tuck inside the front and back covers. I remember when it was time to go back to school at the private school that I went to as a child. We had textbooks, and it was our job that first week of school to wrap them with paper bags, and then we got to decorate them. So that was fun. I did take a little tiny couple pieces of tape to attach the craft paper to the inside and back cover and front cover just to hold it in place. But that should be pretty easy to peel up. Then we're just going to stack our 3 books, and I'm using just some sticker letters I had on hand. You can make your book say whatever you want. I just decided to do peace on earth. So I started at the far right with the last letter of each word and just stacked those words on top of each other. Sticking with the neutral color scheme, I decided to wrap my books in jute twine. You can use ribbon. Feel free to modify this to whatever colors you want, whatever season you're wanting to make these for. Like I said, it'd be really easy to take these book covers off and just make new ones, maybe with white paper, whatever you want, and change out what each one says. So I'm going to wrap the jute twine a few times around, and then I'm sliding it all around to the back so I can tie a knot with the beginning end of the string, and then we'll do the same thing going the long way around our book stack. I did trim those tiny little ends off once I had it wrapped and tied. You could leave it like this too. It looks super cute just with the jute twine going the one way. But like I said, I'm going to do it again, wrapping around the long ways and get that all tied off. I am going to put a little bit of hot glue just between each of the book covers, but again, that would not damage your book. you would still be able to remove the paper book covers and be able to remake for whatever season. So here is our book stack, and like I said, here's the hot glue. I'm just putting a tiny bit between the first two books there, making sure they're nice and stacked straight, and then the next set of books. This video is sponsored by FLEXISPOT, and they have sent me one of their incredible desks, adjustable height desks, that I'm going to share with you today. This is the table that I do all my crafting on. It is just fantastic, so I can't wait to share it with you. The first thing I want to say about this desk and this company is that the product comes superbly packaged and protected. Everything comes with these braces, and you can see all that foam padding. And the great thing about this is your product is literally in 4 pieces, and this takes about 5 to 10 minutes to put together. Here you can see this is the legs and the brace for the table that goes under the tabletop. Here is the tabletop with the drawer and the motor already attached. And then the only other thing you have are your 2 feet. So here are all of your instructions, your pieces. Like I said, very easy installation, which is great. You could do this with one person. I had my husband to help me, and that was nice having another person just to help support the piece, just so it could stay upright while you are adding all the screws and putting this great table together. So with the tabletop face down, you can see there are already holes lined up. So each of us took a side, and with the screws that are included, you just start putting all of those in. And then once that is attached to the tabletop, you're going to use screws to attach each of the feet that will go across the bottom. And then you're ready to flip your desk over and then turn it around. You can see on this side is the drawer. Now this desk is adjustable. It will go all the way down to about 28.3 inches for sitting height, and will go all the way up to just under 48 inches tall. That's way too tall for me, being a shorter person, but the motor is very quiet and smooth. You can even set 4 different preset heights. You can see the buttons there. Also included are 2 USB charging ports, a USB-C, and the button on the far right is a child lock, so that you can lock the height and kids can't push buttons. There's your amazing drawer. You can use this. There's plenty of space for a tabletop for a desk. I use mine, as you've seen, as a crafting surface. Thank you so much, FLEXISPOT. DIY number 4 is a joy hanging ornament sign. I'm going to use an empty wood frame, some scrapbook paper, some burlap, one of these wood word stickers from Hobby Lobby, and 3 of these wood circles from Walmart's craft section. I decided I wanted to do like a black wash or a black stain on this wood frame, so I'm just taking some water and mixing in some of my ink Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to just brush this on the entire wood frame here. It is pretty dry wood, so it did soak up a lot of the color, and I really liked the effect that it gave. Now for the back, I wanted something that I could put the burlap on, so I took this piece of thick chipboard and I did cut one little section off so that it would fit on the back. And then taking this burlap ribbon from Walmart, I'm going to wrap the front side of the chipboard. So you can see I've got a little bit of ribbon there on the side that I'm going to wrap around. and glue down. Make sure you use like a spatula thingy like this so you don't burn your fingers, because burlap has holes in it and the hot glue goes through. So wrap that on both sides, and then you'll see I am going to need 2 pieces of burlap to cover my chipboard, and they will overlap just slightly on the front of our piece. Then I took a second piece of chipboard and marked it so I could trim it to the same size as the one that I wrapped in burlap. And I'm doing this, I'm going to glue it onto the back of the burlap piece just to cover up those ugly ends of where I hot glued the burlap. So I'm going to put glue all over the back of this and then just press the other piece of chipboard down just so it looks a little nice and neater. Now that we have the back piece of our picture done, we're going to hot glue that to the back of our frame so we can then start decorating the inside of our picture. Next, I'm going to take 3 of these wood circles. These come in a pack of 6 at Walmart for very cheap. And I'm going to put a good amount of Mod Podge on each of these 3. And then we're going to let that dry completely. I'm going to use my ironing Mod Podge method for these. And I'm using this white buffalo check. I'm going to use the red buffalo check and then another red and green and black plaid. These are available from Hobby Lobby year-round in their scrapbook paper aisle. Then once our scrapbook paper is dried and cooled down, I'm flipping over my circle to the back and using my Fiskars fingertip cutting knife just to trim all that excess scrapbook paper off each of the circles. These are going to be our ornaments, and I did also sand the edges, you can see there, just to get any excess paper off. Next, I'm going to take this really skinny, I think it's 1/8 of an inch, ribbon that you can get at Michael's and lots of places. I've seen it at Dollar Tree even. And I'm just going to cut 3 pieces at different lengths. These are going to be the strings essentially holding our ornaments, our wood ornaments, and helping them hang down. So with just a dot of hot glue, we're going to attach that at the top of our picture and then attach the other end as well before we put the wood ornament circle on top. With that same skinny ribbon, I also made 3 tiny bows that will go on the front of each of our ornaments as well. I really love these wood word stickers from Hobby Lobby. You get this whole sheet in the scrapbook sticker aisle. They're normally $4.99, but I like to get them when Paper Studio stuff is 50% off. And because I have the burlap background, I went ahead and colored the word joy with a black Sharpie marker so that it will stand out from the background. Now I'm just going to finish gluing everything down. Our ribbons, our ornament circles, and the little bow right there at the top of each ornament. And the last step is just to put our word sticker down at the bottom. I chose, like I said, to do the word joy, and I thought it looked really cute in black right under that center ornament. If you're on Facebook, please head over to my Monarch Mom DIY Facebook page where you can find out more information about Magnolia Design Company. For DIY number 5, I'm going to make another nativity using paint sticks and jumbo giant craft sticks, one of these small grapevine wreaths, some felt, a wood plug, and some antique wax. So the first thing I decided to do is I'm going to make a square, and I'm going to cut 6 paint sticks to about 7 inches in length. We're going to use these for the 4 sides of our stable and also 2 pieces for the roof. So once those were cut, I took my antique wax and I'm going to just brush it on the front and the sides and then wipe off the excess to get that nice wood look with the wood grain. Next, I took one of these wood rectangles, wood slats from Dollar Tree, and I cut it at about 2.5 inches to make a little square. I'm going to use this to add a sign to the top of my nativity stable. So here's my 4 pieces that I'm gluing into a square. I'm just lining them up. I have the top and bottom being glued to the top of the 2 side pieces there, and getting those in a nice square. Now flipping it over to the back, I'm going to figure out that I need 4 of these giant craft sticks to cover that space at the back. So getting them lined up there, I'm going to just draw a pencil marking where I need to trim each of them so that they will fit perfectly across the back of our stable frame. Then once those are all cut, we'll go ahead starting at the bottom and just put some hot glue down and lay those across. This is the same method I use when I put paint sticks across the back of a picture frame to fill in that space. So now I'm going to take my other 2 pieces with the antique wax. I'm going to glue them together at a 90-degree angle as well, right up there at the top. And then we will attach our little roof to the top sides of our house square. Coming back to our little white square, I'm just going to distress the edges a little bit with my truffle chalk paint to give it more of a distressed look. Now with this mini grapevine wreath, I cut it not quite in half. I cut one piece a little bit smaller than the other because I'm going to try to squish these 2 pieces together to make the manger for baby Jesus. This, because it is not a smooth surface, did take a little bit of hot glue to get it to stick down here at the bottom of our stable. Now I'm taking one of my Magnolia Design Company stencils. This is in our Christmas minis, and it just simply says, "Oh Holy Night," in a really pretty font. Taking just a tiniest bit of our glittering gold chalk paste, I'm going to stencil these words right onto the center of that white square, and this will be added to our nativity as a little sign at the top. And now we get to put everything together. Taking a small little piece of felt, I'm rolling it up, adding a little bit of hot glue. This will show where baby Jesus' body is. We'll glue that down in our manger. And then just taking this plain wood plug, I believe I got these at Hobby Lobby as well. We're just going to glue that down to be baby Jesus's head. Next, I'm going to take these little metal pieces. These are optional. I had these in my stash. I pulled these off of a Dollar Tree sign years ago, and I thought, hey, these are about the right size to just line the roof of the stable. And I know there was no metal, but I thought it was cute, and it gives it a little bit more of a farmhouse look. And next we'll add our little wood star to the top from Dollar Tree. You can also get these at Walmart or Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And then I really love the little sign that I stenciled. I think it really just brings everything together, fills in that space nicely, and I love the finished product. Please check the description box below the title of this video. There you will find a list of all of the supplies that I've used in today's projects, as well as some links. For DIY number 6 today, I'm going to show you how you can dress up some of these cutting boards, either the ones from Dollar Tree, some that you find at thrift stores, or even these mini ones that Dollar Tree had as signs. And I found red, white, and blue. I'm just going to use the red and white today. Again, using some scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby to dress these up for Christmas. You can see I cut a piece and I have the straight edge at the bottom, and I'm just using my fingernail to make an impression on the other 3 sides. This I think is the easiest way, better than trying to measure it and cut it and then round the corners. So just cutting around then where that impression was, and then we'll lay this down and it should fit pretty well right in that little indented place on the cutting board. We're going to cut those pieces for both of our cutting boards. I'm going to use this pattern on my red cutting board and go ahead and cut that out and lay that down as well. Now I'm just using matte finish Mod Podge. I'm going to put a pretty generous layer as smoothly as possibly and evenly as possibly on this middle section of our cutting board, and then I'm going to spritz some water on the back side of my scrapbook paper. This will eliminate most, if not all, of the air bubbles, and it lets you kind of move the paper around a little bit more, smooth it out. And I did this a few times just to make sure I didn't have any bubbles, and then I took a wipe to wipe away the excess Mod Podge that's on the cutting board. I did that for both the red one and the white one, let it dry completely, and then I did do another thin layer of the Mod Podge over the top and let that dry completely as well. This is another time where if you see bubbles starting to form, you can rub them out with your finger like you saw me do there. Now I'm going to make 2 identical messy bows for my cutting boards. These are just using ribbon that I have in my stash. You can use very neutral stuff like what Dollar Tree carries year round, or if you have ribbon in a stash, you can just cut some of these crisscross pieces, and we're going to tie them together in the center with some jute twine. So once you have all your pieces of ribbon crisscrossed, flip it down upside down on top of your jute twine, and you're going to kind of scrunch it together in the center as you tie a knot. I usually tie one and then make any adjustments that I need to before I go ahead and finish off the second time of the knot. Then you can trim, dovetail your ribbons, cut them at an angle. This is where you can be creative and fluff out your bow as well. I decided I wanted to add some wording to one of my cutting boards here, so I'm just using the words Merry Christmas from my Magnolia Design Company Winter Words stencil. And I love this tall, skinny font. I'm just centering it down at the bottom using some white chalk paste, first doing the word Christmas. Then once we get that one done, we'll lay down the word Merry and get those two words stenciled super quick and super cute. You could also maybe get from Hobby Lobby some Christmas stickers that say Merry Christmas, or you could just use individual sticker letters as well, like we did on our book stack. Now I know these wood ornaments for Christmas aren't out yet, but I did have some left in my stash from last year. So on my white cutting board, I just tied one of these natural colored snowflakes around my bow before I glued my bow down. Then I'm going to add this little white button in the center to cover the string. Here though, I'm going to show you how you could make a little snowflake using some of these skinny sticks from Walmart. I'm just making a small one here. I cut these sticks in half. I made 2 plus signs and then glued them on top of each other to make like a little snowflake. Then I'm going to tie some jute twine around it in a knot and hang that from the bow for my red cutting board. I had to make it a little bit smaller because I did add the words at the bottom and I didn't want it to cover up any of those words. So once I had that the right length, I'm going to glue down the bow here at the top of our scrapbook paper there on the cutting board and also add a white button as well. And here's how our 2 cutting boards turned out. There are so many different ways you could decorate these, and I love that you can now find them in 3 different colors: white, red, and navy blue. Thanks again so much for joining me today. Please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time. Take care.